This is the Freeheel Life Podcast, episode number 184. I'm your host, Josh Madsen, coming at you from the Freeheel Life shop in Salt Lake City, Utah. And welcome back to Telemark Pirate Radio this Monday. Happy to be here, and I hope you're hearing this. You got some skiing in this weekend. Winter is officially here, and I'm sure everyone is stoked as I am. I was out tromping around yesterday getting a Christmas tree. I took the skis, but I didn't actually need them. There was enough snow, but didn't actually end up needing them. I kind of wanted to. That would have been a new one. Skiing in to get a Christmas tree and coming out. So hopefully everyone's getting ready for the holidays and spending some time with family, however you may choose to do that. And hopefully you get some extra ski time. So that's the most exciting part, when you get some more time off and hopefully you can get up on the hill. A little sip of coffee today before we get into some newsroom and notes. So appointments are open for the week. Get on it. This has been going fantastic for us, and it's been great because we've been able to sort of book back-to-back appointments throughout the day and actually have a pretty solid day. Now, I know that doesn't fit everybody's schedule. You know, you probably want to just be able to come by the shop whenever you're feeling it, and we understand that. So Saturdays we're open 9 to 5, and you can just walk on in. You can also do appointments. So if you are looking to get fitted for boots or something that requires a lot of attention, be sure to book an appointment on Saturday. We're trying to roll with 2 of us, and that's worked out pretty well. Going into December, into January, I think we're going to probably try to add some open hours on Fridays and Mondays, possibly. I'm still trying to kind of figure that out, but that kind of goes to the next thing. Is we've got some of our demos ready to roll. Brand new fleet of demo boots, TX Pros, TX Comps, women's TX Pros, and getting all the protectors mounted up. And that will be our lineup, is all of our protector skis, most of them with Outlaw X bindings on them and some links. We want to make sure that people that are looking to rent for the weekend can come in and obviously pick them up Saturday or Friday sometime, ski part of Friday, Saturday, Sunday, drop them off Monday. So that's usually how it rolls about this time of year, especially as people are coming to town. So we'll be putting up more information on that, probably send out an email. We've been trying to just get the inventory dialed in and create a new way where you can, basically put all of that package together online. But in the meantime, you can hit us up, customerservice@freeheellife.com, and we can put something together for you and get you out on the hill. This past weekend, thanks to everyone that came out to the Midwest Telefest fundraiser at Bent Paddle Brewery in Duluth, Minnesota. Looked like a good time. I was not there, but it looked like a fantastic time with some good beverages, good people, and I think they had some great giveaways. I know there was a painting that was being put up on auction with our old friend Steve, who the Stomp logo, the 75 millimeter bottom of the boot that we have printed on some shirts and hoodies. It was a painting of him, and it was absolutely beautiful. All of you that have listened to the podcast, I love art, and I always love finding Telemark artists, and that was a really cool one. So anyways, thanks for coming out to that Midwest Telefest. I'm looking forward to getting out there. Midwest Telefest itself is going to be happening February 9th through the 11th at the Porcupine State Park up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan. It's sponsored by Higher Love, Freeheel Life, and the Porcupine Mountain Ontonagon Area Convention and Visitors Bureau. For more info, you can go to midwesttelefest.org, and I would love to see you there. So I'm going to be coming out and bringing the whole demo fleet. So we'll have boots and protector skis, and we're looking at an enjoyable time there. I know the Smelly Knee Pad Midwest Super G is happening, and Keith Opperman has done a phenomenal job of putting some awesome trophies together for that. So I'll try to post some of that on the Instagram and the YouTube channel along the way just to get you hyped up for that. And for those that are interested, get those vintage setups ready for a good time. One of the early podcasts of the season, I had Keith Opperman on to talk a little bit about that and talk about all the fun stuff that's going to be happening. But would love to see you there. I always really enjoy my time out in the Midwest, and looking forward to it. On that note, I'm going to be driving out. I know that I mentioned this early on that I might hit some Midwest spots, but I want to throw it out here in case someone's listening. One spot that I'm most likely going to go through is the Black Hills of South Dakota, and I would love to meet up with some Telemark skiers. There's a little spot in Sioux Falls on the other side of South Dakota. Most likely that's the route I'm going to take. I've always wanted to make some turns in South Dakota, and I know that there are telemarkers there because I showed a movie one random time back in like 2009 in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I met some telemarkers there. And anyways, I know I'm pretty sure I'm going to go through that Black Hills area as I'm boogieing out across the country. So if you are out there listening, or you know a telemark skier in the Black Hills of South Dakota, hit me up. Podcast at freeheellife.com. Let's see if we can put something together and make some turns. No promises, because I don't even know what the itinerary is, but that's one of those random spots that I've always wanted to kind of pop in and see if I can make it happen. Let's see. So that gets us through February. I want to make sure that everyone knows World Telemark Day is going to be March 2nd. It's always the first Saturday in March every year. This will be no different. March 2nd, 2024, if you can believe it, the 10th annual World Telemark Day celebration. This is where you can go out and just telemark with a friend, telemark with a group, go to a festivity. But more importantly, I've got the logo already made up. I'm working on a press release. This is one of those fun things I started years ago, really just to get people out and telemark skiing on the same day and make it easy for people to put on an event if they want. So that's what I wanted to mention today. It's early. It's December. If you have a local hill that wants to maybe put an event on and you need some help figuring out how to talk to a marketing person, how to put a little gathering together, hit me up, podcast at freeheellife.com, and I will guide you through it. Most likely I'll do some sort of a podcast that talks a little bit more about how to put a meetup together, but it's super easy. Just mark your calendars and plan on going telemark skiing that day. It's going to be good. Moving on to some new retailers, Bluebird Day Gear. And I know I've talked about some of these before. I wanted to mention them on the podcast this week just to kind of go through all the ones that do have product. I'm still working on trying to get another batch of heel levers, and that's been a little bit trickier, but leashes and smile plates, you can find at most of these retailers, leashes for sure. And I just wanted to give some call outs. Keene Valley, New York at the Mountaineer. Hit them up. Go check it out. Continental Ski and Bike in Duluth, Minnesota. They were a part of the event this past weekend as well. Big supporters. They're going to be at Midwest Telefest, and excited to see some of the product there as well. Durango, Colorado, Backcountry Experience. Killington, Vermont at Base Camp. Intervale, New Hampshire, Ragged Mountain Equipment. These are all great independent retailers that care about telemark and are willing to take the chance on carrying some of our product. And I'm excited about that. And it's fun that we're hand making this stuff, and then they're willing to take it and make it a little bit closer to you. So please go support them in whatever way you can. Of course, we would love for you to pick up some Bluebird Day Gear leashes, smile plates, and heel levers if they've got them. And if nothing else, just say that you heard it on the podcast and you wanted to pop in and check out their shop. I know that means a lot to retailers that are independent like that, and they always love meeting locals. And maybe you can put a World Telemark Day meetup with them together and get that going. So support your local community, support your local independent retailers, and make it happen. Over in Europe, the Freeheeler Festival just went down. The Freeheeler European opening in Hintertux. If you listen to the podcast a couple weeks ago, I had my good friend Richard Scherf on. He's going to be doing a whole testival tour as he calls it, and going around. He has all sorts of skis, boots, bindings, instruction, and whatnot. And he's doing some amazing stuff in Europe. You can try a pair of Protector 95s at any of those stops this winter, and it would encourage you to go and check that out. Obviously, that's really far. There's a lot of logistics when you're trying to sell product over there, but I thought it was important to at least get it over there for the Testival Tour. I've known Richard a really long time, and we're trying to help promote his events through our channels, and that's super important to us. So if you got on him at Hintertux and you're listening to this, I'd love to hear what you think of the Protector 95s. Hopefully you had a good time. It looks like everybody was out having some good skiing. Might have been a little low vis a couple days at least, but hey, that happens. Sometimes glacier skiing is a little bit tricky this time of year. Every year we get so many voicemails, emails, DMs, wherever you can hit us up, and we get a lot of these questions about telemark skiing, and a lot of these questions are the same because there's generally a lack of information online, or people are having a hard time finding answers they need. Maybe they don't have a local retailer that, has the answers, or, and I've talked about this in past podcasts, especially this year, is trying to focus on how we can share some of this information with some of these retailers. Bluebird Day Gear is a really good way for me to be able to connect with some of these folks and say, hey, we know you care about Telemark. What other information can we help you get so that you can help more people out? In the meantime, we get a lot of these questions our way. And so today's podcast, I wanted to put together my top list of frequently asked Telemark questions in 2023. See if I can offer some answers, some opinions, insights on some of this stuff. I just think it's important. I obviously, if you want to sift through like 180 some podcasts, you can probably find a lot of this information. I think it really spans too, is there's obviously the technical information that maybe somebody wants to have that's been a telemarketer for a long time. And then there's beginners, intermediates. One thing that I think is always interesting is retail shops in general, anybody who deals in retail or is connecting with the public. I think the biggest surprise that manufacturers don't really understand a lot of times is sometimes the questions from people who actually have been telemark skiing for a really long time, they're not paying attention to this stuff all the time. I know all the gearheads out there are, you're thinking about gear all the time. You're sitting around with a scale, you're weighing stuff, and that's great, but there's a lot of people out there, based on what I've seen over the last 9 years of doing Freeheel life in this way. They just have questions, and they need answers to those questions. And I thought this would be a fun podcast to sort of put this together. No particular order. I've made this more generic and general style questions, sort of based on a lot of these general concepts and questions that we are always getting. And I thought this would be a good chance just to sort of put it all in one spot. So let's kick off the first one. Incredibly common question. I'm looking to get into telemark skiing. What type of ski should I use for my first setup? Of course, down the line, I would love for you to be on a Freeheel Life ski. That's our ultimate goal. But you're putting your first setup together. You're probably trying to save money. You're probably coming from alpine skiing or snowboarding, most likely. Every once in a while, someone's coming to skiing and just starts with telemark. You don't see it as often, but I know I have taught lessons to people way back in the day when I was doing ski school, and I was always impressed. I'm like, so you've never skied and we're starting on telemark gear. It's doable. And honestly, it's not a bad way because there's no preconceived notions about how things go on. But that's the most common question. What type of ski should I use for my first setup? So this is always more about the features of the ski. I think I'll start with, that's usually what people are asking. These features are reflected in the Protector skis that we were trying to hit when we designed these things. So basically, if you're looking for a ski and you're not just going to use one you have, and I'll talk about that here in a minute, a ski that has traditional camber, a little bit of traditional camber, a little early rise tip, so just slight rocker on the tip. Tail can really be any shape you want. Flat tail, a little turned up. But the traditional camber with the early rise tip is a really good place to start. It's a very common shape in most ski models that you're going to find out there these days. And like I said, this is reflected in what we did with the protectors. And let me give you the reason. A traditional cambered ski, you can load it up on edge. It's not reverse camber. It's not something funky and specific for a certain type of snow condition. It's just very easy to ski. Early tip rise is the rise of basically where the contact point ends and the tip literally rises up. It rises earlier than probably in reference to an older style of ski. This helps on the inside leg, which is the one that you drop the knee with, kind of keeps it planing upward in soft snow, crud. And frankly, it doesn't really do anything poorly on hard pack if it's not too dramatic of an early tip rise. So it's just a good all-around shape and all-around good features. Now, I will say, if you're just starting on your Telemark journey and you're trying to maybe figure out what the waist width, so underfoot, what the measurement is, I would say go narrower. That's my opinion on it, is having a narrower ski, it's easier to get side to side and maneuver that lateral part of the turn. If you start getting, so if we're talking millimeters, I think a good place to start is anywhere from depending if you're like Midwest, East Coast, maybe even like 85 underfoot. 90 underfoot is like a good sort of in between for everywhere. I wouldn't go over 95, maybe 100 millimeters underfoot for that first setup that you're trying to do. I just think you're going to save yourself. You're trying to learn a new technique. You're elongating two skis into one essentially to make this Telemark turn. And you just want something that's super easy to turn over. You don't really want to have 110, 115, 120 underfoot. Can it be done? Yeah. And so that's what I was going to say is if you're getting into Telemark, what type of ski should you use? The one that you have is the obvious answer. Here's the thing. You want to get into Telemark and not have to make sure you like it, and people that are coming from alpine skiing, that's usually where I tell them to focus is if they have a ski that can be remounted with their Telemark bindings that they're getting, go with that. As far as length, let's talk length now that we've talked about underfoot measurement and characteristics of the ski. Something that's similar, if you're coming from alpine, start there. Shorter is better. Again, just so you've got less ski to worry about. I'm skiing with a friend this week. It's going to be his first day Telemark skiing. And, his alpine skis are, between 175, 177. And so I'm going to start him on a 174. I think that's a really good place to start just because, he's closer to my height, about 5'11", 6 foot. And I think that's a good length to start with. You don't want to go too big. I think it's hard to have that happen too often these days because typically we're not rolling with like 210s anymore or anything like that. But something that's as tall as you or shorter, and if you can get something shorter, it's just going to be easier for you to maneuver. So this kind of goes into my second question. Frequently asked question is, I'm putting my first Telemark setup together. Should I focus where I spend my money on skis, boots, or bindings? What is the most important thing to think of? So I was kind of leaning into this with question number one is if you have a set of skis that you can pull a pair of bindings off and still fit a new Telemark mount on there, go for it. I think if you're going to put money into it, you've got a little bit of budget, I would focus on the boot and the binding and just get it on a generally good pair of skis based on what I was just talking about. The features of a little traditional camber, early rise tip, not too wide underfoot and not too tall. But if you can put money into a good boot, comfortability, correct sizing on the boot is game changer. You don't want to get a boot that's too big because then the bellows aren't hitting correctly on the right part of your foot. And you don't want to go too small because it's just going to crush your foot. Okay. Ultimately, though, where you should spend the money is whatever your budget is. Don't let that hold you back. Used gear is so important, out there too. We obviously sell used gear. Honestly, if you can find a better deal on Craigslist or at a local shop, just go do it. That's the beauty of this is, find equipment that's available to you. If you can't rent, to try it first and stay within your budget. But if you're inspired to telemark, that's what you need to do is focus on spending your money on what you can and getting out. That's the most important thing. Okay. But if I had to choose between skis, boots, and bindings, I'm always going to say, go with boots and bindings first. Find a ski that's cheap, throw it on that, and then go for it. Okay. All right. On to the next one. Number 3. I'm currently skiing a stiffer T-Race 75 millimeter boot and need new boots. I don't want to switch to NTN because I don't want to convert all of my setups. What are my choices? The T-Race was a really stiff boot offering from Scarpa years ago. I think it went away in 2016, if I remember my dates right. And this is not that abnormal. Sometimes it's not about, people are like, I don't want to go to NTN, but it's not necessarily because they hate NTN. They might not even know a lot about NTN. They just know, hey, I've got a couple pairs of skis. I like my bindings. I like my boots. What do I do? Well, here's the thing. Used market is your best bet right off the bat. Is if you don't want to change anything and you're happy with the boots more or less other than they're old and you're happy with the binding setup, you're going to want to get on the used market. I know that seems obvious, but here's the thing. The T1 is no longer made, which would be the next step. A clapped out pair of T-Race boots are probably like a new pair of T1s. There's some T1s floating around, same model of boot. If you're talking about other boot manufacturers as well, pretty much everyone's gotten rid of these super stiff 75 millimeter boots. There's not going to be a lot of options. So calling other shops that might have overstock from back in the day, obviously looking online, that's the first part of the answer is if you need to maintain, that's what it is. You're just maintaining and trying to find that boot. There is no offering of a new boot in the 75 millimeter category that's that stiff, like a T-Race or a T1 even, that you're going to be able to find. So it's used market all day. My advice from there is start transitioning slowly, because if you are one of those people and you've got like 3 or 4 setups and you're literally like, I'm running axle and vise on every single setup, or whatever your 75 millimeter setup is, but that seems like a common one I hear often, is start looking at transitioning. And when you can afford the new boot, put the money there. Unfortunately, I don't think there will ever be a new 75 millimeter boot that fits that category of a stiff boot. It just is what it is. And if you want to listen to some previous podcasts I've done, 75 millimeter versus NTN, it's really just how you fasten to the ski. I think where the gaps are always lying in does NTN feel like these other setups that you have, like a T-Race with a hammerhead, for instance? It might not, and you might not be able to make it feel the same, and that's where people get hung up. So that's my take on how to handle that one. All right, moving on to number 4. Where can I learn to telemark ski? Should I get a lesson? Is it worth it? Well, I think the finances of this are always the first thing that comes to mind. Is if you can afford a lesson, I think that's great. The dilemma that I've seen over the past decade especially is most places you can find telemark lessons, like in Utah, Colorado, most of these places that have, especially like a lot of people traveling there to ski. Some of the smaller hills may not have telemark instructors, But the difficulty usually lies in there's not a lot of group level lessons in terms of how much it costs. So you're probably looking at like a half day private. I haven't priced it out any time recently. The last time I remember, it was probably somewhere in the $300 range for like a half day private. Maybe that's low, high. I don't know. Let me know. Send me a comment and let me know how much do you charge for a half day private. If you can afford a lesson, I think that will jumpstart you. But a lot of us have learned, obviously, off of videos, books. I read a book many, many years ago. On the YouTube channel, I'm starting to do more instructional stuff. How you make a stance. I'm going to be getting on Snow here pretty soon and starting to do more little tutorials for our members and some free videos as well. The best place to start is just get out there and try it. Generally speaking, if you can figure out like which foot goes forward, that's you can learn from pictures, books, videos, and whatnot. And there's resources out there to get you going. But if you can afford a lesson or, get a buddy to teach you, I 100% think that's a good route to go as well. So just keep that in mind. I think any sort of instruction from someone who's already experienced and can share the knowledge, I think that's a good way. And that's anyone who listens to the podcast knows that's what I'm all about, is sharing knowledge is such a big deal with this, and whether you pay for a lesson or you get a lesson from a friend, that's helping you out, or a book, just get out there and do it, and let's pass it on. And one thing I've always said about the culture is it's always been great, because if you bump into another telemarketer on the hill, or maybe you even, I feel like there's always that classic story of like, you're at a small hill, your local bump somewhere, and there's like the one Telemark skier. Maybe roll up to that Telemark skier and just say, hey, I've got the gear. We talked about how to find, some used gear or new gear, whatever. And just say, hey, can I take a couple runs? Can you give me a couple pointers? That's what this is all about. So give that a shot. Okay, next one's more of a gear related question. This has been probably one of the most common questions that has come in over the last 24 months is, do you carry Scarpa replacement mid straps? So mid strap is on most of the Scarpa models. You've got the sort of an instep strap. Maybe it's that middle strap that goes across. It's a wire. They get shredded. They break. We have not had these mid straps in stock for years. It's like 2 seasons. I don't think we've had any of these. And people are wondering like, hey, do you have them? You can reach out directly to Scarpa and ask them. Most likely they do not have them as well. And so I think there's this sort of this perpetual cycle of who has these things, because most boot retailers, I mean, that's a broad brush, but in my experience, most don't carry that part. They might have a couple. They might not even do the fix on the strap, and it's just hard to get the parts. What do you do? First off is make sure you know the procedure too, because if you're looking at that boot, it looks like an Allen wrench that you're going to take out and it's just like going to pop off the rivet, and you're going to take that little screw out and you're going to fix it. That's not the case. That thing's epoxied in there. It requires you to heat the boot up, and there's a real high probability that you're going to melt your boot, and then the boot is toast. There's no way to save it after that. So you really want to make sure to go to a professional that can do it. So there is one of the solutions we've heard of is like, I think Full Tilt, which is a Alpine boot company, does have some straps that you might be able to do some sort of compatibility. We've started seeing some homemade ones. I've seen like Spectracord, like climbers would use. I mean, there's all sorts of stuff, but just be careful doing it yourself. And when we get them, we'll let you know. They're just super hard to find. So if you're looking for mid straps, you might want to start figuring out how to do it all on your own. The next question is, I'd love to get my kids on Telemark gear. Do you offer kids rentals? How does that work? So we have a full fleet of kids rentals. There's many boots that are Mondo 19. It's like kids 12, super small boots, plastic boots, very soft. The Teledactyl, the G-Rex, they're no longer made. We've got a full fleet of them, lots of small T2s as well, and T3s and those sorts of boots. And we've put them together. We do offer a kids rental for the season that's $200. You can reach out to us, customerservice@freeheellife.com. We ship them all over the country, and it's great. So really excited to be able to offer that. It's something we've done for many years, really since I started collecting the kids' boots back in the beginning, 8 or 9 years ago. And definitely something that's worth doing. And then as you grow out of it, we can, if the kid grows out mid-season, we can swap you out with what's available. The main thing is just kids are great Telemark skiers, and they're awesome at doing it. It's just a matter of getting them on the hill, and that's basically it. So we want to offer that to parents that are looking to get their kids on Telemark gear early on. All right, next question. How many times can I mount and remount my skis? I talked about it, using a pair of skis that you have for your first Telemark setup and whatnot. 3 mounts, and this is generalization, right? It totally depends, because maybe you had an Alpine mount or you bought a used pair of skis that had an Alpine mount, and then you can squeeze in other mounts on there. It just really depends. I like to have about a centimeter between old holes and new holes, and it really just depends. Are you talking maybe it was a older 4-hole standard pattern, and you're moving to, you might be able to squeeze in a new 6-hole pattern. There's other ones that are trickier, like someone that has a Rotofella free ride, but they want to move to like a 22 Designs Outlaw X, both 6-hole patterns, but really not great in compatibility. And they just don't really fit really well together. But you can remount your skis multiple times. At some point, you have to kind of look at, are they so Swiss cheese that, you're compromising the ski to the point where they might break? It's a safety issue, that sort of thing. So it can be done. I don't know if there's an exact answer. It's a really common question. The main thing is can you safely get fresh holes when you do mount or remount? I guess remount in most cases. Is it compromising the integrity of the ski from a safety perspective? So that's really what you want to be able to look at. All right. And the next one, I'm looking at getting new boots and trying to figure out my size because I don't have a shop near me. I'm not even sure what mondo sizing is. All right. So mondo sizing, for those of you who don't know, maybe you ski, you don't really understand what that is. It's a general sizing that's done with centimeters. It's metric. So if I measure my foot, it's 27 centimeters, and that translates to a 27 mondo size. And basically that's how you do it. So you can go to our YouTube channel. You can watch how to size Telemark boots. And basically what we do is take a piece of masking tape, put it on the floor, mark heel, mark your big toe or whatever toe's the longest, pull a tape measure on it, ideally metric, get your centimeters. More or less, that's giving you ballpark status of a boot fit from home, kind of to know where you're at with that. That's basically what mondo sizing is. Here's a little trick for you. Now, this isn't 100% accurate, but it does work. And it wasn't made this way, but it does work. So like I said, I measure at 27.0. So 27 centimeters mondo. If you add the 2 and the 7 together, you get 9. I am a men's 9 generally in US men's sizing. So if you're just trying to ballpark, like I said, try to get to someone that can fit you for boots, or hit us up, customerservice@freeheellife.com. We can try to walk you through it. But that's where you want to start with the sizing. That's a little hot tip for you if you're trying to figure out like US men's sizing and you don't have a tape measure. But the metric measurements, you can walk yourself in pretty close, if not 100% of the time, just doing it like that. That leads to the next question. Why do you guys say that there's no difference between whole and half sizes in Telemark boots? And this is incredibly common because people just don't understand that There are no half sizes in Telemark. There's always this argument that, well, no, there's half sizes. There's 26.5 and 27, which is the same in Scarpa. Well, here's the thing. The shell is identical in a 26 and a half and a 27. So it starts on the half size, goes to the full size. The shell is identical boot sole length. The only difference is a 3 millimeter difference in the liner. You can watch our video that I did many years ago on the YouTube channel. It talks about that. You're talking 3 millimeters of material difference in terms of length in the liner. Me personally, like I said, I'm a 27.0 Mondo. I buy 26.5. I buy 27. And I just heat mold it out and it fits and it works. So whole and half sizes are a myth for the most part. There is 3 millimeters difference in a perfectly new liner. But other than that, that's it. It's the same boot. All right. Well, there's some hot tips and some frequently asked questions from 2023. And hopefully that got the brain going this morning on this episode of Telemark Pirate Radio. Psyched to be here. I hope you guys have a great week. Make sure to check out all those newsroom and notes items I was talking about. MidwestTelefest.org. Mark that on the calendar. World Telemark Day, March 2nd. And hope you have an amazing week. And hopefully you get some turns. And I'll be back next week. So until then, spread Telemark always, my friends. See you later.